So we are discussing about co-directional coupling, right? Co-directional coupling, and specifically uh, we discussed a bit of co-directional coupling and taken up some example of directional coupler. And so if you just consider a directional coupler of certain length, probably so if you just consider something like this, so this is the two waveguide. These are two waveguides, and here uh, from this point onwards, they come closer at, we can consider z equal to 0. This is z equal to L. Okay, and we can say that this is the length they are coupled. And if I use A1 here and A2 here, and we can consider this is A3, this is A4, then we know that this A3 by A4, that is the output, should be equal to say so-called R minus J T minus J T star and R star A1 A2, right? And typically R equal to say we consider this is nothing but cos kappa times L, and T we have considered minus J, say K kappa by mod kappa star we have, and sine of kappa L, right? That is what we have derived. That is derived for a certain condition, that is actually delta beta equal to 0, meaning beta 1 equal to beta 2. So waveguide 1 and waveguide 2, they are identical waveguide, and that is the situation it is giving. And I can just consider, suppose beta 1 not equal to beta 2, suppose. Okay, that means we have delta beta not equal to 0 but can be close to 0. So if that is the case, normally we can have this. I can take same example that A2, or maybe I can consider suppose A, okay, just special case, suppose A1 is not equal to 0, something like that. We can consider say 1 watt corresponding to 1 volt per meter or something like that, say equal to 1 normalized value we can consider, and A2 equal to 0 in the previous figure. Okay, now I can have, depending on the interacting length, depending on the interacting length, so you have the value A3 and A4 are decided. Interacting length L, and of course you have to consider and the coupling strength kappa. Kappa A1, A2 are decided, right? So if I just try to see that I am launching here in the previous slide, you see, yeah, this is equal to 0 I consider, and this is something I put some value not equal to 0, right? Now I have something will be there in the so-called, this is called actually the bar port, and this will be called as a cross port of the directional coupler. Okay, so I am launching here how much you are getting in the cross port. Okay, if you know that the cross port normally it's supposed to be this value. If kappa is real, you can just ignore this thing. So sine kappa L, right? So it's supposed to be sine kappa L, okay, and maybe minus j if you are just considering a real term. Kappa, assuming kappa equal to, assuming kappa should be equal to real. It need not be real, okay, but for simplification I'm just considering here this. If this is the case, I know that typically in this case I can consider, say, T is defined as so-called coupling efficiency. Sometimes it is called eta. Okay, okay, if it is A4 it should be, and also it should be multiplied by A1, right? So eta should be A4 divided by A1, right? And you can take the mode of that one, and that will be A4 divided by A1 would be sine kappa L, right? Sine kappa L. And if you are just considering this eta, because of the T, if I normally T is this one, right? This is the T value. T value is sine kappa L. But when I'm writing eta, it's basically transmission, basically power transmission. So we have to write square. So in that case, I can write this one. So in that case, even kappa is not real. This is valid. So this is the coupling coefficient. So coupling strength, efficiency, coupling efficiency to the cross port. Okay, that depends on that. But in case delta beta not equal to 0, that is what we are talking here. So delta beta not equal to 0, then the expression can be modified as, I'm just writing down the expression only. So you can just check, you can solve from the original coupled equation. I don't want to spend time here. You can just simply write that A4 divided by A1 square for delta beta not equal to 0. I'm just considering this one. In that case, that expression will be something like this. Kappa square sine square kappa L. Okay, sorry, I did a mistake here. It should not be kappa here. So instead of kappa, because delta beta not equal to 0, okay, so since delta beta not equal to 0, I will be writing S. So since delta beta not equal to 0, your S is not equal to kappa. Okay, so instead of that, S will be, S square will be your kappa square, as we have considered in the previous class, this one. Okay, so this S will be there. So sine square SL divided by S square. Okay, so that is actually your if delta beta not equal to 0. Obviously, if you just put delta beta equal to 0, then AS square will be equal to kappa square will cancel, then it will be like sine square kappa L, as we have shown in the previous slide. Okay, so this you can represent as kappa square divided by S square, means kappa square plus delta beta by 2 square, and sine square SL. So that means I can write kappa square plus delta S means square root of this one, okay, and times L. Okay, so this is your eta. Now I want to consider, so in this case, particular case, if delta beta not equal to 0, some value is there, this will be some value. So this is a sine function, right? This is a sine function. So there is no chance, that no way, if delta beta not equal to 0, you cannot get, you will never get eta equal to 1. Okay, because this value, this is a positive number, this value can periodically change, this value can be periodically changed from 0 to 1, right? Sine square that one. But the main multiplication factor here, which can be considered as the amplitude. So since delta beta not equal to 0, so this is always less than 1. So that means eta cannot be equal to 1, whatever length, whatever kappa you consider. Okay, so that means whenever beta 1 not equal to beta 2, asymmetric waveguide, if you are just considering coupling between asymmetric waveguide means their beta that is not phase matched, beta so propagation constant is not identical, beta 1 not equal to beta 2. So in that case, maximum power transfer cannot take place. You can just, still you can see that eta is oscillating as a function of length. That's true, but it cannot go complete transfer to the second waveguide. But whenever delta beta equal to 0, in the previous previous slide we have discussed, so whenever you are just considering delta beta equal to 0, then your eta value will be, this eta can be equal to 1, can be, okay, eta can be equal to 1, maximum power transfer can take place. And then if you keep on increasing length, then you will be obviously getting other things. So reverse back, power will reverse back to the other waveguide, first waveguide. Okay, is this clear? Any question? Now I will try to explain that, suppose beta 1 delta beta equal to 0, I am just going back again, delta beta equal to 0, that is actually beta 1 equal to beta 2, symmetric waveguide, delta beta equal to 0. Then I know that your eta will be equal to sine square kappa L. Remember that I have not considered losses. Okay, so it is a lossless case I've considered. Eta will be this one. Now kappa known to you, you can calculate using your numerical technique, numerical or any full vectorial solver, etc. Kappa value I have already mentioned, discussed earlier, that how kappa can be calculated, kappa known. Now can I just find out L3 dB? So for a given wavelength symmetric case, right, I want to design a directional coupler of length L3 dB where kappa known. Okay, and for example, you just go back to the previous slide. Yeah, I need to know this length so that it will couple 3 dB. That means 50% coupling will be there to the second waveguide, and first waveguide it will be there 50%. Okay, so what would be the L3 dB expression? Can anyone help me? Partha? Not listening. Partha not responding. So just logging in and we are going away or what? You will be absent today, right? Rishabh, you tell.
Sir, mod KL should be equals to pi by 4
Yeah,
because
yeah. Where the power will become half. Why you cannot speak, Partha? Okay. So that means that eta should be half, 50%, right? 0.5. So that means that kappa L should be equal to how much? Kappa L should be equal to pi by 4, right? If kappa L equal to 5 by 4, then this will become your half. Eta will become half. So that means I can get L3dB equal to pi by 4 kappa. Is that correct? So 3 dB power splitting, if I know kappa value, so just numerically you calculate kappa value, then you know what is the length required for 3 dB power splitting. Okay. Now if I ask you that LC, what is that LC? Complete coupling to the second waveguide. So in that case, you need to have eta equal to, for LC, you need to have eta equal to 1. That means kappa L should be equal to what? 1, right? Kappa L equal to how
pi
much?
by 2.
Pi by 2. Is that pi by 2? So
No,
it
it's
should be
integers.
times 2n plus 1 pi by 2. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So odd integer multiple of pi by 2. So that means I can have LC equal to pi times 2n plus 1 by 2 kappa, right? That is our LC complete. That means I periodically I can, if I just somehow, if you have some kind of problem to design a particular length for complete power transfer, so you can go to the next value. So n can be starting from n equal to 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on. So if LC values you can consider, say pi by 2 kappa, and then n equal to 1 means 3 pi by 2 kappa and 5 pi by 2 kappa. So these are the length you can set where you can expect complete coupling to the other waveguide. Okay, and you see exactly this is pi by 2 kappa, and half of that actually giving you 3 dB coupling. But this thing will never be possible. Complete coupling will never be possible when delta beta not equal to 0. That is shown in the previous slide. Okay. Now next thing is that we know how to design. Another thing is that suppose I just consider that coupling strength, how much coupling is possible depending on the length. But what about the gap? If I control the gap, coupling strength, how can you control? That is another design parameter, right? So if you control the gap, keeping the length, for example, your length is fixed. You have, you know, for a certain gap. So yeah, for example, you know, so where is the, my God. Yeah, suppose you know for a certain gap L3 dB, you could calculate for a certain gap between the two waveguide. Now, if this gap is increasing, so L3 dB will be increasing or decreasing?
Sir, if a gap is increasing, L3 be decreasing. If
L3B because kappa will
kappa,
be dropping. So as gap is increased, kappa value will be decreased, because kappa value depends on, your kappa value is actually omega by 4. You have E1 xy star delta epsilon xy and E2 xy Of course, normalized one. How to normalize also we have discussed. So that means if kappa is a gap is increasing, that means the field of first waveguide in the vicinity of the second waveguide, the evanescent tail will be dropping. So this integration value will be dropping. Kappa can be reduced. So in that case, gap increase means you need a longer coupling length. So this is a trade-off. If you want to make a compact coupler, for example, 3D power splitter, so in that case your gap should be as small as possible, but sometimes you cannot make very small gap because of your fabrication error, fabrication limitations will be there. Okay, so for example, in our fabrication facility at IIT Madras available, our students actually they can fabricate some uniform gap of about 50 nanometer or more. So you cannot reduce more than that. Typically, reproducible results they are getting for 100 nanometer gap. Okay, so that is some fabrication limitation. So if 100 nanometer is fixed, your kappa is fixed, then you can find, okay, where is the coupling length, complete coupling length will be there. Typical coupling length, I'm just giving you one example here. Typical L3dB coupling length is in the order of 4 to 5 micrometer you can get, depending on your available gap, designed gap. Okay, so that is one thing. Yeah, understand, right? Now next thing is that, all right, so this way we are calculating kappa by evaluating individual mode field distribution, right? So there is another one way directly you can calculate kappa value. How is that? Let us try to discuss that thing. Suppose you have two coupled waveguide, right? So you have one waveguide here, and then you have, for example, you have one waveguide, and then you have another waveguide here, right? Waveguide 1 and waveguide 2. So your fundamental, this both are single mode waveguide you have designed. Independently they could be designed. Now this is your silicon layer, this is your edge, so device layer thickness, and maybe this is small edge that can be 0, and this is, we can consider this one is W1 parameter, and this is maybe waveguide W2, and this can be the separation between these two waveguide. We just use that with a parameter so called G or S. Okay, separation. So these are the design parameters. So we have W1 and W2, that waveguide of width, first waveguide, second waveguide, and another parameter will be small h, and another parameter will be S, right? And H normally it is given whatever device layer thickness available, commercially available, used by foundry, you have to use that. Typically it is 220 nanometer for SOI wafer, right? And bottom your oxide box layer, right? And top layer can be oxide or air, something like that. Okay, so you have, this is your region. Now you know how you solve your waveguide modes using I think next Monday Ramon and Subarna will explain that how to use this, how to solve waveguide modes, mode field distributions and effective indexes using numerical. So you know, you just defined a cross section here, and you define what is the dielectric constant and some other physical parameters, and then use mode solver, full vectorial method. Then you can find out what is the EX, what is the EY for a given mode, and EZ, HX, HY, HZ, and of course for a given, if they are related to a fundamental mode, different order of modes you will be getting. If it is fundamental mode, you will be getting also corresponding beta value also. Okay, this is the set of field distribution you get. Effective index you are getting, and also you can get another waveguide and mode field distribution, and that's why kappa you are getting. Instead of that, here you see you are calculating individual waveguide modes, say E1 XY. Okay, instead of that, if you use the same method by considering entire structure and try to find out what is your solutions, there also you will be getting your mode solution, some confined mode, guided mode for the entire structure. Entire structure will be like this, and you consider entire structure as a unit building. Instead of solving mode profiles for individual waveguide, you are just solving solutions for the entire cross section, whole cross section. So there also you can get some kind of eigenmode solutions. Okay, you can get E1 XY, okay, corresponding propagation constant is beta 1, and higher order mode will be E2 XY, corresponding propagation constant will be beta 2, and then E3. I'm just considering the here dominant electric field. Probably you will be getting all the components, but I'm just showing the dominant electric field. Okay, EXY in a certain direction, it can be X direction, this is Y, this is X, and Z, or whatever, and then beta 3 and so on. Okay, but thing is that if this is a single mode individually, and second waveguide also single mode individually, right, and if they are coupled some way, and you try to solve again full vectorial method, how many feasible guided mode solutions you supposed to get? By intuition you can tell also. You know, normally from the common sense, you know, if there is a particular function, wave function, say psi a, it's a quantum mechanical concept normally we consider, and another waveguide is psi b, and normally this is a solution and this is a solution individually for the individual waveguides, but combined solution can be one is plus psi a, another will be psi b, and probably for normalization case you can consider 1 by root 2 and 1 by root 2. So this type of solution you're supposed to get most of the time. Individually they are psi a and psi b. If they are coupled, then you can think of that two different type of solutions are there. For example, I think that is called sometimes I think quantum mechanically for band structure evaluation for solid state physics, normally they use that special name is linear combination of atomic orbital. Linear combination of atomic orbital. So suppose you know one atom is there, and if you just try to see hydrogen atom, for example, or any atom which is having a potential atom, and surrounding that you can have a potential like this, and if you solve a electron circulating the atoms having a this is a potential, right? Potential will be at z equal to 0, so it will be higher potential value. Then if you solve a electron wave function, it will be looking like this. And if you have another atom far away, if you try to solve the wave function quantum mechanically, if you solve that wave function will be like this. Now if you bring these two atoms very close by, then you will be getting two different solutions. One will be like this. That means it is something like that. This is psi a and this is psi b, and if they are coupled, their energy level will be splitted, and one solution will be psi a plus psi b, and another solution will be something like this, psi a minus psi b. So this type of solutions you will be getting. So this is called symmetric solution, and this is called asymmetric solution. Okay, asymmetric solutions. And same thing also here, waveguide means also similar type of kind of quantum well for photons, right? So here also if you solve Maxwell's equations, if you solve the Maxwell's equation, right, then you will be getting one is one particular solutions you will be getting, and another solutions you will be getting, and third solutions you may get, but that will not be a guided mode. These solutions psi 1 psi 2 you will be getting like a it will be like EA plus EB 1 by root 2, and this will be like EA, this waveguide A and B I am just considering, right? EA minus EB 1 by root 2. Okay, this will be second waveguide. and they are, in this particular case, they will be called as a super modes. Super modes. Okay, so if single mode waveguides, they are coupled, it is like a linear combination of atomic orbitals. You supposed to get two superposition of two modes. That will be a solution for the combined structure. If you solve Maxwell's equation, you will be getting like that. If I just try to show you this thing in a just a little bit of schematically, suppose this is a top view of your one waveguide, and then another waveguide at a certain distance. I'm just considering top view, right? And if you solve, and if it is your x direction, something like that, and this is your x or y direction, whatever you consider, and this is a z direction, right? Then along x direction, if you see the field distribution, one first mode you will be getting like this, and another mode you will be getting like this. Okay, they are actually called super modes. If you directly solve, there is different type of solutions you may get depending on the gap, etc. But for weakly coupled, if it is, they are not very much strongly coupled, and gap is sufficiently large, only a little bit of coupling is there, interference or perturbation is there, then you most of the time you will be getting this type of two field distribution. If you are just considering electric field, I'm just represented schematically, it is shown, and this will be called as a symmetric super mode, and this will be called as a asymmetric super modes. Okay, and we can say that symmetric and asymmetric super modes is having beta s and beta as propagation constant. Field distribution you will be getting, and their propagation constant will be there, and most of the time you will see that beta s is greater than beta as, and if it is a particular wavelength, then normally 2 pi by lambda n effective s must be greater than 2 pi by lambda n effective as. It is greater than, that means n effective, any given wavelength, n effective for the symmetric mode will be larger than, that is actually a fundamental mode for the combined structure, and that will be lower than this. Okay, now I know these values are known, this beta s, you can get a solutions, right? You are getting from the numerical or software full vectorial method, you know what is their propagation constant. Now I am just asking you that if it is the z equal to 0 here, just looking into this, can you decide what length is required after solving the symmetric and asymmetric mode? What length is required where you can think of that you are launching a light in top waveguide, and the power will be completely transferred to the second waveguide. I need to find out LC. I hope you got my questions, right? The question is, you have two coupled waveguide, and you know their super mode solutions, and their beta s, you know. Now you are launching light from a laser at the one of the input ports, one of the input ports you are launching. Now I want to know, because they are coupled, earlier discussion, earlier solution says that even though you launch here, after certain length, you will find that the power will be completely transferred into second waveguide. Now, in this particular situation, you have not calculated things in a conventional way. Instead, you have calculated super modes, combined structure, the eigenmode solutions you have used, and you found that solution beta s and beta as. And schematically, you know that this symmetric mode will be looking like this, and antisymmetric mode will be looking like this. Now my question is, With this knowledge, can you calculate the length required for which the power launched in waveguide 1 will be completely coupled to the waveguide 2? I am giving you 30 seconds to think and answer. If you have not understood the
Yes,
question,
sir.
please tell. Tell me.
Yes, sir. Sir, the symmetric mode and anti-symmetric proof we have written into from plus and minus. From that we can calculate the actual modes 1 and 2 in two modes. Then we can calculate the coupling coefficient, and
Oh,
using that.
yeah, yeah, that's a very yeah,
That
sporting way. I think that I think without that you just think not like that. You don't go back to that. If you are, I don't want to use that individual mode field distribution. I don't need to calculate kappa at all. I don't want to calculate kappa, but I have this information in my hand. I don't want to use whatever coupled mode theory you are using there. You don't want to use. So Parth is saying that we can try seeing where the two symmetric asymmetric modes produce constructive. So you see, whenever you are launching a mode like this, because in this combination of waveguide structures, you have two modes are there. For example, you have a waveguide. It can support a single mode waveguide, right? If you launch light from any source, it will be exciting on the fundamental guided mode. If it supports another mode, will that be excited or not? The second mode won't be excited, because if you see the overlap integral from this mode to second mode, that is 0. But if you little bit misaligned, then because coupling between the fundamental mode, suppose this is your waveguide mode, first mode, and this is waveguide 2, and this is an incident mode, electric field distribution XY. So coupling efficiency, normally coupling efficiency, if I just express, that will be somewhat proportional to, okay, your incident field distribution, and what about the coupling to waveguide mode, right? XY dx dy. So larger the value of this integration, coupling coefficient will be more. If you just integrate the Gaussian field distribution from a laser source or whatever, and then integrate this one, you'll get some value eta c. But if you just try to, instead of E1, if you are just trying to get E2, you know the first half is positive and second half is negative field. So if you integrate, that will be 0 symmetrically if you integrate, because integration is from the this side. If you from the center, if you calculate this side, it will be giving positive value, and if you just calculate this side, because one value is positive, another value is negative, so that's why total integration will be 0. So even though it can support first order mode, that will not be coupled. No energy will be transferred, only fundamental mode will be coupled. However, if you can manage your input beam little bit laterally shifted, then this value will not be equal to 0. So the fundamental as well as first order mode can be coupled. Whenever you are launching here, you know that it is a symmetric, two modes are available as a solution. And if you try to see overlap for the incident wave to symmetric wave and asymmetric wave, their overlap will be similar. So if I just maintain something like this for this case, field distribution, if you see, and try to get a overlap integral, sorry. Okay, I'm just trying to get a overlap integral for symmetric mode. What I will be getting? Overlap integral E incident star xy, and then ES symmetric mode xy dx dy, and then another I will be calculating AS. What will be that? That will be actually incident star xy proportional to some proportionality constant will be there. We can write always, and then EAS xy dx dy. Now looking into the profile, I can easily say that whatever value you will be getting here, same value you will be getting here for symmetric and antisymmetric. So that means if I am having 1 watt incident power, if there is no coupling loss here, everything transferred to this two mode, then this symmetric mode will have 0.5 watt and antisymmetric mode will have 0.5 milliwatt. So they will be equally divided between two modes if you are launching in the first things, right? And as long as you maintain this waveguide cross section, they will be independently carrying energy 0.5 watt without interaction, because I cannot see any perturbation, because I have considered entire structure as a unit, one particular waveguide, right? So, and these are the eigenmode solution for the entire combined structure. So these eigen solutions, I have to assume that if I am coupling, if I am just exciting both the modes equally, they will be traveling independently. No power exchange will be there, I can assume that. But the important part is that it has a propagation constant beta s and it has beta as, and beta s is higher and beta s lower. So that means as it propagates, as they propagates, they will not be able to, both the modes will not travel with the same phase velocity, because phase velocity is defined by omega by beta. So phase velocity for the symmetric waveguide is lower than the phase velocity of the asymmetric waveguide. That symmetric mode will be traveling slower, asymmetric mode will travel faster. So since it travels faster at any particular length, I will see that symmetric mode will acquire more phase compared to asymmetric mode. So if I just refresh once again, so you can think of that one waveguide and another waveguide. So in the beginning, if you see, you have excited symmetric mode and you have excited, sorry, let me clean up bit. At the same place, though I am just sketching in a different way, but they are excited at z equal to 0, right? And you are launching some mode like this, one mode, maybe this waveguide is coming here, a little bit higher here. So this mode is coming, and after reaching here, it sees the coupled situation, then 50% will be excited to this mode and 50% will be excited to this mode. And you see, you can decompose these two things if you just superimpose, that you have a mode something like this, right? Symmetric mode like this, and then you have an anti-symmetric mode like this. No, I did a mistake here. So you have a symmetric mode. Okay, that means this is your positive value, right? Symmetric mode. And anti-symmetric mode, maybe I can change color. Anti-symmetric mode, something like this. Like this. So both are excited. So that means if I just superimpose this thing, this part is 0. So at the beginning, it is clear that though you are exciting both the modes, the energy in the second waveguide is 0, because this is plus and this is minus. So they will be cancelling each other. Okay, total intensity, if you see, the second waveguide is 0. But at a certain distance, after reaching there, the situation can happen like this. You just think about that. That you have a symmetric mode is somewhere, is something like this. Okay, no, sorry. Let me clean up this thing. Okay, so symmetric mode, after traveling this distance, suppose it is having a phase, acquired phase 2 pi times some integer. That means its shapes will be different, same. But after traveling this one, this 2 pi phase shift is happening because of the beta s times L, certain distance traveled, and that is the phase. Phase is just 2 pi times integer. But if this one travels, okay, and if it is having something like this, to pi and some kind of what, sorry, it is 2n, maybe we can write like this, 2m plus 1 equal to beta ASL. That means odd integer multiple of pi. If this travels and it acquires odd integer multiples of pi, in that case this value, this thing, this asymmetric mode will look like this. Okay, so what happens if you see the superposition of these two mode? Here it is minus, this is plus, so they will cancel, and here both are plus, so it will be, energy will be this one. So when they have, after traveling, if they acquire pi phase shift, then you can see that though they are independently carrying energy, the energy density will be mostly in the second waveguide. So that particular, after that particular length, if you somehow separate your waveguide, right? So this energy density, again, it will couple to the fundamental of the mode of the second waveguide, and it will go there. That means I can find this particular length, where it will acquire 2 pi times integer nc, and this one will be this one, right? Meaning that as, right? So I can say that beta s minus beta as LC equal to pi, or maybe I can say 2n plus 1 odd integer multiple, some other 2s, or maybe okay, 2p, that is also integer. So in that case I can say that even I am launching light here, and if I know symmetric propagation constant at asymmetric propagation constant, asymmetric mode propagation constant, then I can find what is the length required for complete coupling. So I can write beta s here, little bit of simplification, 2 pi by lambda times n effective s minus n effective as times LC equal to pi times 2p plus 1, right? So pi cancel, right? So I can say that LC equal to 2p plus 1 integer number times lambda, right? And lambda by 2 n effective s minus n effective as. So that is the length required for complete power transfer to the second waveguide. Now can you tell me what would be the L3 dB expression? Anyone? This is the length required for complete power transfer. So it is clear, no? So it will be 2p plus 1 lambda times n effective s minus n effective as, right? Suppose p equal to say 0 if I consider, then it will be lambda times delta n. Is that clear? What is sorry, that is actually delta n. Delta n means I am writing the effective refractive index difference between symmetric mode and anti-symmetric mode. So L3 dB will be this value. Now, because once we know beta s and beta as, I can find out delta n. Then I can find out lambda by delta n, what is the value. Once we know these values, then I can find what is the coupling length. So this is a different approach. But here I have shown that earlier kappa L 3 dB, kappa L 3 dB equal to how much? Kappa L 3 dB equal to pi by 4, is not it? Kappa L 3 dB, if it is pi by 4, then you get a 50% coupling. Earlier kappa value I have calculated, right? Now I know that in this expression, what happens? This L3 dB equal to lambda by delta n, right? So this is equation say A, and this is equation B. Compare A and B. So what you get? Kappa equal to kappa times lambda by delta n equal to pi by 4, right? So kappa value equal to, what is that?
Sir,
What is the mistake here?
L3 dB should be the LC divided by 2, right? So,
Kappa L 3 dB. This equation is correct, right?
no, the previous page. Here L3 dB will be 2p plus 1 lambda divided by 4 ineffective S minus ineffective S. Is it not?
So these expressions are correct, right?
LC, there is a 2 in the denominator.
Half.
So L3 dB is half of LC.
Oh,
That
sorry. Right.
it will be 4.
It should be 4 times. Exactly. So this should be 4. That was a mistake. Yeah. So that was the mistake. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. And then this one will be 4, right? L3 dB by 4 lambda by 4 delta n. So 4 delta n. So 4 cancel. So kappa will be pi delta n by lambda. So that means I can calculate instead of just directly calculating overlap integral, you just directly solve symmetric and asymmetric modes beta s and beta as, and from there you can calculate n effective, estimate n effective s and n effective as, and then you can get delta n should be equal to this one, and once you get delta n, then you get a kappa value directly. So you don't need to calculate numerically, MATLAB program, etc. You don't need. Okay. So this is how another way of calculating kappa value. So this kappa value estimation is very important to design a directional coupler. And once you can design a good directional coupler, that directional coupler will be useful to design ring resonator as well as Mach Zehnder interferometer. I will be discussing that in the next class. If you have any questions, otherwise I will stop today. Okay.